Care Services, because there's no place like home.
Good morning and happy South Florida Saturday. Mike McGann here with you, and this is Limitless Health Horizons, brought to you by Horizon Care Services, excellence in private duty home care. And you can learn more about Horizon Care Services by giving them a call, 561-776-7757, 561-776-7757, or by heading on over to horizoncareservices.com, a great website for a great company. And with me in the studio is, of course, Andrea Albertini. She's the founder. She's the owner of Horizon Care Services, and a good friend of mine for, well, since longer than Legends Radio has been around. How are you, Andrea?
Good morning, Mike.
It's always so wonderful to have you here in the studio. And I'm telling you, especially after last week's show, where there were points to be made and a lot of emotion, a very powerful discussion. And I think for anyone that may have missed it, let's touch base about it briefly, because when you came in, you were fired up, and it made for quite a discussion, Andrea.
Oh, absolutely. Well, for those who did not listen to last week's show, we were talking about exploitation on the seniors.
Yes.
And we're talking about how can the seniors protect themselves, because I had clients last week that called my office asking for help, but they already have been exploited by other people. And we discussed how important it is for the seniors to please use an agency if you need any home health care. Yeah. If you're aging in place, please do that, because if you're just hiring somebody from out of the street, somebody who are not licensed, somebody that doesn't have liability insurance, and they can take everything from you.
Sure.
And plus, if they can't make it for the day, you alone. Your
right,
mother's
you're absolutely
alone.
Right.
You alone, and how important it is. And yes, I was on fire because I had people calling my office last week who now looking for an agency, who regretted not, and was telling us the story. And that got me very fired up last week. So,
but that's the thing about you. And one of the reasons that we're friends like we are, we do the show together, because your passion is so real for this. It's why you founded this. There was the need to have reputable people who are going to put the human beings who need the care first. And that's what you do. And that's what you've consistently done. And that's your emotional investment in this is why you're so good at it. And it is why Horizon Care Services is, well, really the best of them all, because you see the people that you're working with as people, not as numbers, not as quotas or statistics. You see the human beings, the seniors who need the care.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a very powerful thing. And again, you can learn more about it by heading on over to horizoncareservices.com. And even beyond that, I mean, nowadays, you never know. A lot of these days, you don't know who you're speaking to online as well.
Absolutely.
And we mentioned my dad, I think we mentioned it last week. The guy was like literally a rocket scientist, and he fell for internet scams after he retired, because there are so many out there. It's terrible that people take advantage like that, but they do.
They become vulnerable. When we get older, we're tired. We become vulnerable.
Yep.
And then whoever calls on the phone, sometimes they're lonely. Whoever calls on the phone that they're going to feel comfortable with, sometimes they end up giving everything away.
It happens over
and then it happens with the home care, with those predators. I call them predators.
They are predators.
Who preys
That's a good way to put
on
it.
the seniors. Yeah. And that's absurd. I don't know how people can sleep, doing that. But, but that's just the way it is. And it's sad. And that's why I was very upset last week.
Well, it was a very powerful program. And again, it just shows how deeply you really do care about the well-being of the people that work with you and the people that work for you as well. I mean, if you look at your history with Horizon Care Services, 60% of the caregivers have been there with you from day one, 20 years.
Yes.
And it comes down, you really do care. It's very legit with you. And I can, tell you that from a business and a personal standpoint. And that's part of the reason the show is so necessary. You can learn more about it all, by the way, again, at horizoncareservices.com or by calling 561-776-7757. Now, it works perfectly for this week, because after talking last week about some of that exploitation of seniors and what a serious problem it is, we've got a guest today who is kind of the antidote to that.
Yes.
And not just that, but one of our favorite people as well. And I just love it when things like this come together.
I love it.
We've got my friend, attorney James Chaffee. You've heard him here on Legends. He's I've spoken
Juris
with James a
Doctor.
lot. The Juris Doctor himself, the traveling attorney, and a gentleman who is again one of those people that is so legitimately concerned with the human beings that you work with. It's it's really an incredible thing to see someone. There's a lot of jokes about attorneys, but then you get the really good people like James Chaffee, who does the right thing by his clients, sees them all as human beings, has a heart and a soul that's a part of your business. And that's incredibly refreshing, James. And
thank you.
Just a great guy in general.
The last time I was here was December 19th, remember?
I remember that day. I will never forget that day. It was just a lovely, special day when we had a lovely singer by the name of Ann Anello with us. And Ann is a wonderful friend, and she's got some great music. So we had Ann on, and James was in the studio with Ann, and we played a song, and then James got down on one knee and proposed to Ann live on my radio show, December 19th.
Oh, congratulations.
It was such a beautiful moment.
Yes.
And
I'm so glad you could share it with us, Mike.
Oh, it was great because you and Ann are, well, that's the thing. They're wonderful people, real human beings. Yes. That's what you bring together. That's what it's all about. Real human beings who care about other human beings and do the best they can for them.
And Andrea, I have to agree that Mike, right? Humanitarian extraordinaire.
Yes, amazing.
With a heart of gold and the most generous heart.
All.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Who spent so much. Yesterday, your ears must have been burning because we were speaking about you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we were a bit.
And all that you do for people and the charities that you assist. It's just so heartwarming to know you and to understand the generosity of your heart. So thank you.
Well, hearing that from somebody with a heart like James, what a thing to say.
And another heart here with Andrea.
Is just another one. Well, there's a whole lot of love and a whole lot of light in the studio and a whole lot of doing the right thing for the people who need it. And I'm telling you, nowadays there's a lot of dark out there with exploitation, with catfishing schemes, with people that are out there trying to take advantage. But the antidote is that light and that real honesty, that real love for our fellow man and doing the best we can for them.
It's important that we highlight it.
It's so much. We've got to shine that light on it.
The average person is not aware that it's happening.
Right. And dispelling the darkness, it takes the light.
And a number of my clients were patients at hospitals, and I never knew that there were per diem workers at hospitals. I thought all staff were employed by hospitals and that they were full-time staff. But they actually hire some per diem workers. And those per diem workers, some of them, are the ones that prey on these seniors because they see there's a need. They start to they work with the people in the hospital. They find out if they have family, and I think they prey on the ones that don't have family or family live out of state.
That's right.
And then they'll say to them, "When you go home, I'll be happy to work for you."
Exactly.
And the patient says, "Oh, that would be wonderful," because they've established this relationship at the hospital.
Right.
And two of my clients, I highlight this in a column that I wrote in April. I'm the editor of the PJ Community News. But one of them, his name was Dan. He was exploited by a woman who knew that his family was out of town, and he had a previous healthcare worker who was with him for months, but she was out of town when this particular person came into his life. And this woman started to exploit him. He started to spend a lot of money on expenses for her. And who comes back but the healthcare worker who he had been working with? Her name was Michelle.
Michelle, okay.
So she comes to the apartment, and the other woman, her name is Kafilia, is now threatened because she sees Michelle walk into the door. She took a knife out of the kitchen cabinet.
Whoa!
And put it up to Michelle's throat and said, "Get out of here." Michelle naturally was petrified and left, but she called the police. Thank God she had the presence of mind to call the police.
Yes.
The police came, and ultimately she was prosecuted for the exploitation. But imagine getting to the point where it could be violent like that. She was so threatened by the fact that she was going to lose this money train that she was receiving, that she became violent about it.
And looking at that article, this gentleman was 90 years old. This is I mean, you want to
Can you imagine that?
Someone who
how
is
scared he was?
Probably had to be terrified. What can he do physically, right?
No.
And this person stole his trust.
That's right.
Yeah.
Stole his trust.
And his money.
And then physically held a knife to a legitimate caregiver. And I mean, this sounds like something you'd see in a movie. It sounds like something that you'd see it on TV and say, "Whoa, you're getting a little dramatic there, Hollywood." But that's
story.
real life, and that's
It's real life.
It's
very sad, but it's real life.
It's terrifying. It is terrifying.
It is. I mean, even like me owning the private duty home health agency, sometimes from time to time we have a conflict, between the client and the caregiver. Okay. And what do? We call the caregiver and say, we're removing you from this case. We have another case that we're going to put you in that's better suitable for you. That's how you do it. Because you got to remember, even though we do personality match, a Horizon, sometimes when you have patients who are either very difficult or they have early stage dementia, you're going to have those kind of problems.
Sure, that happens.
Because, most of the time, once we put a caregiver in there, they're happy. The client is happy with us. And family's happy with us. Everybody's happy. But there's going to be a time that, because of, like I said, memory problems, usually it's our early dementia patient that this happened to, not somebody who has it, all there. But it happens. And then we remove it nicely. That person says, thank you so much, Mrs. Albertini, for working with you. It was great. We have a wonderful caregiver coming in. And you exit nice and clean, and that person can never get in touch with that client again. And that's another benefit of you using an agency.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? This is how important it is, because otherwise, this is going to keep happening with these people.
Another client of mine, he was in a hospital situation again. A per diem worker approached him, and he only had family in Europe somewhere.
Okay,
so no one was really monitoring him. And she approached him, and she ingratiated herself with him, and he started to give her money. And then he actually called me and said that he wanted to change his will. And I always start to ask questions when they do that, right?
Okay, because wait, you mentioned he had family.
Yeah, but they were in Europe.
Right. But were they children? What was the?
No, they were nieces and nephews.
Okay, but still, he had relations that were in another,
which would be the natural subject of his bounty, right?
Sure,
they would be his beneficiaries.
Oh, good heavens!
So I started questioning him, and I said, "Okay, I'll be happy to meet with you." Well, I didn't hear from him for a while. That per diem worker took him to another attorney and had him execute a will. She was the sole beneficiary of the will.
Oh, it happens all the time.
But
happens all the time.
Imagine
I don't know. It's that
wouldn't happen with Horizon Care Services.
No, and not with James Chaffee either.
Exactly.
And that's the thing.
Exactly.
This is amazing to me, because that kind of.
And I suspect those type of people must have these attorneys that they work with. It can't just be an isolated instance.
No,
and
as
they've
an
got
attorney,
the ones they work with.
I
and
would
deal
be
with,
suspicious if a care worker came to me and said, "Prepare this will for this gentleman. I'm the beneficiary." You would think the attorney would start to think, this might not be ethical. I need to check.
You've got a responsibility around this.
Yeah.
Right.
Who are you?
Right.
What are you to him?
Right.
Does
he have a prior will?
Yes.
Who were the beneficiaries before that? You would ask these questions.
It would just seem to be basic best practices.
Yes.
That just, I don't know. That hurts me on a spiritual level.
Definitely.
Like it really does to hear about that.
Yes.
That kind of,
It's
predator
sad.
is exactly the word, Andrea.
I call them predators. I'm sorry, but
they
that's
are.
what I do.
They're to apologize for that. I mean, that is pure predation. That is outright theft. That is.
And that woman also brought him to the bank, and he added her to her bank accounts also.
So she had access to all of that as well.
This is how bad it goes.
Yes.
This is why last week I was agitated.
I'm agitated.
And I was
I'm sorry, I'm agitating you again.
You agitated me again.
Well, the difference is in this case, now we can discuss legal recourse, what to look for. We can discuss why it is so important to bring a reputable attorney in on this case, someone who actually, again, sees the humanity of the people you work with. And James, I know that you as an attorney, it begins and ends with the law for you.
Yes.
And let's talk a bit about that. What exactly do you do? What is it? What is the need for it so powerfully about, especially now when there are so many predators out there?
Well, I do want to mention again that we want our listeners to know that you need to utilize Horizon Care Services because they vet the workers.
They really
You're not going to
do.
have these people, like I said, that are per diem workers.
Right.
We don't even know their qualifications. So it's important to utilize services as Horizon Care Services. But from a legal standpoint, there are documents that I prepare, such as a durable power of attorney, which is important for people to have, because that power of attorney will continue even if there's mental incapacity later.
Right.
And also a living will with a healthcare designation, because normally they would designate family or close friends to make healthcare decisions, not these workers that are going to try to ingratiate themselves and take over the senior's life. And by the way, I do want to backtrack. There are legal recourse for these people that exploit the seniors. They can be prosecuted. And Cophelia was prosecuted in Martin County for that first gentleman that I told you about. And I wanted to mention, as I've mentioned to you before, that I'm on the board of directors of the Area Agency on Aging.
Yes. A lot of great discussion
Yes.
around that.
And there's a telephone number where you can report the exploitation if you suspect it. So I'd like to give that phone number.
Yeah, what's that number?
Yeah, that's the helpline, 866-684-5885. That's the helpline for the Area Agency on Aging. And they will direct you if you have complaints about financial exploitation or even physical exploitation of a senior. They will direct the call to the proper authorities and then hopefully be prosecuted for what these people have done.
Wow.
Yeah, and actually we have that phone number in all of our paperwork.
Oh, wow.
And we
wonderful.
also leave it at the client's house.
Oh, terrific.
And we also notify them, even though you are using us, you are using an agency.
Right.
You know, we need you to understand what this number is. So we do explain to them no matter what.
In addition, that helpline not only would help in a situation of exploitation, but also any concern that a senior has, whether it's insurance or Meals on Wheels or any type of issue that a senior is having, they can call that helpline, and they will be directed to a resource for them, which is fantastic.
I love it.
Yes.
I mean, what a necessary and important conduit that is. And you know, James, what you do, there's so much of it. The scope of the Juris Doctor's expertise and abilities is very wide. And I mean, obviously, these types of exploitation, making sure you have somebody looking these forms over with your best interest at heart is key. But beyond that, even if there's not a case where you get someone looking to scam or someone that's a predator here, anytime you've got family, anytime you've got limited resources and quite a few people that might be jockeying for position with said resources.
Yes.
And even families that are on great terms with each other, you can run into all kinds of issues with estates. It can be a quagmire. Emotions can come up. There's a lot into it.
Greed is the basis, obviously.
It's what
Yes.
shows up.
Right,
And I hate
right.
to say it. I've seen it
Yes.
time and time again.
Yes.
I guess I was lucky because my family was like, all right, we'll split it 5 ways. We're all good. Post-it note on that. Okay, good. It's yours. We were good. But I've talked to so many friends, and I've seen families get torn apart because they didn't plan properly.
That's right. It is. Planning is so important.
Let's talk about some of that planning and how that relates to what you do.
Well, it's funny because yesterday Andrew and I were speaking, and I said so many people put off a will. They say, okay, I'll get to it.
Eventually.
And then the years go by, and
Hey, I'm still alive. Haven't needed it yet, right?
if you die without a will, it's called intestate.
Yep.
And your blood relatives all share. Mm-hmm. So if you have some children or siblings or whomever would be your normal beneficiaries, they'll all participate, whether you have a good relationship with them or not. So it's definitely important to prepare a will so that does not happen, or a trust, some type of a estate planning document.
That's exactly it. And even if people do get along, there can become jealousies.
Yes.
I mean, there can be issues where you've got one sibling that is worth millions and another who doesn't have any. The one who had millions lent some to one, and they say, well, you know, maybe you should pay me back out of what you get. There are just a million different ways this can go sideways.
There are.
And that is, you know, that's a stressor while people are alive. I mean, that's what the parents, grandparents, they don't want to be seeing that happen to their families. I mean, that's the last thing in the world.
Right. And also without a will, everything would be divided equally. So you, like you said, you might have some children who don't need the benefit of the will to the same extent that others do. So you might want to do different percentages.
Right.
Or there could be grandchildren that you would like to be the beneficiary to, and not just children. So it really is important to have the will to direct the persons that you really have the heart for, that they receive those assets upon your death.
And then making sure that that is followed, and there's not a predator that suddenly comes in, picks them up at the hospital, and changes it all with a shady attorney.
Right.
I mean,
it happens all the time.
And that's where someone like Attorney James Chaffee, who does the right things for the right reasons. It was so funny because I remember bumping into you, James, and Ann at a restaurant a few months ago, and one of the other people that was eating dinner walked up to me and said, "Is that James Chaffee?" And I said it was. And you had done, I wish I could remember their name, but you had done some work for their family a few years ago. And they just said, he's like the best guy. I'm like, I know he is. You know,
Thank you.
Your reputation precedes you. And of course, that's part of the reason that Andrea, who always chooses the very best of the best to work with.
Because she's the best of the best.
Thank you.
Really
Thank you.
I mean,
I was so impressed with Andrea's heart Such
That's
a
what it's
generous
about.
heart, yes. And both of you care about people. That's the important thing in
Yes.
life, helping other people.
That's what it is. I mean, we're all in positions in our ways to do it.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think this kind of a thing, it's so refreshing also when it comes to having faith, because this is look, so many people are out to scam. It can really kind of turn your thoughts about humanity on its ear.
Yes.
And when you see the stories like Ophelia, someone who specifically went out just with a plan to devastate someone else for her own own gain.
Right.
And then the other story you told with the other client of yours who had the nurse's aide and made all those changes to the will and everything. You can sit there and wow, it's a dark place.
Yes.
But that's not really the case. It's really not. There's a lot of good out there, and the
There
good
is.
people.
There is.
There are more
Horizon
good,
Care
more good
Services,
than bad.
There really
Yes.
is more good than bad. It's just that, you tend to get a lot of noise from the bad
Right.
ones.
Yeah.
But Andrea, you and Horizon Care Services, the people that you speak with, surround yourselves to, you attract the good ones because you are good.
That's true.
And the business you do is good, and the care you provide is the very best. And because of that, the ones that you choose to work with and have, to refer people to help you out on your end, they're going to be good ones too because you really do your homework.
Oh, absolutely. And I love meeting James. And, I told him a little bit about my story.
Yep.
And, and I started this company from nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing. And just with my heart and my passion and just doing the right thing. Doing the right thing for me is the most important thing in the world, Michael. I mean, I will lose money. I will do whatever I need to do to be able to keep my integrity. That's
Yes.
the most important thing.
You can't
to
put a
me.
price on integrity.
You can't. And I feel that's why you and I created the show.
Right.
And to be able to share with the listeners all the things that I learned out in the community, that I can bring it to you all to be able, this is what's good. This is how you can reach out to this
And the
type of
important
people.
word is care.
Care.
It really is the word. Horizon Care Services
Yes.
is what it's all about. Now, James, let's we've got a couple of minutes left. Let's talk a bit about how people could speak with you and what services you might provide to them in this context. So what are some areas that people would need to reach out to you for? What do they need reviewed? What about planning? How can you help?
Well, along these lines, it's estate planning. So
Right.
it's if they have a previous will, and also a lot of people have such old wills, and they say, "Oh, I've got to revise it. I've got to revise it," and then they finally do after many years. But if you have an estate plan currently and it's more than 5 years old, it's probably a good idea to have me take a look at it
Okay.
and review it. And once again, we want to make sure you have a durable power of attorney, living will with a healthcare designation, a trust might be relevant for some people, and then a will. So those are all the estate planning documents.
No two cases are going to be alike.
Right.
No,
You
it's
know,
not.
doing this kind of thing on your own is a fool's errand. And James obviously can take a look at all of this, and he's so just above board. He's got that heart. He does care and does the right thing by the people who come to him.
And I'm sorry to say, but some people just are misinformed about things too.
So much.
And I'll hear them say, if I don't have a will, the state takes all my property, which is not true. It could happen if you don't have any relatives ultimately, but
Sure.
the state doesn't really enter into it in most cases. So I'm happy to provide information.
Great.
to
How do
people.
people get in touch with you?
The phone number is 561-747-6000.
That's 561-747-6000 to get in touch with attorney James Chaffee. And of course, you can also learn more through Horizon Care Services. Know that you'd be, Andrea, also be willing to refer if anybody does need that help. And that number is 561-776-7757, 561-776-7757. Or you can head over to horizoncareservices.com. Looking at this article that James Chaffee had written, Florence Nightingale, Where Are You? Is the name of it. And my mother was an RN. So my respect and love for good caregivers, for the
Yes.
people that
Who
come
dedicate
from
their lives
heart.
to
Who dedicate
others.
their lives. That's really what it is. Dedication's a good word
Yes.
for that. Dedication's what led you to be the attorney that you are, do the work that you do. Dedication is what led you, Andrea, to creating Horizon Care Services and just making it this hub of amazing services. I mean, the company itself, the very best when it comes to long-term care, the very best when it comes to having the right people in your home.
Yes.
People you can trust. If your parents or grandparents are here and you live out of state, or if you're the parent or grandparent and your kids live out of state, you need that help, and you need to get it from someone who not only has done all their research and does it all right, but really does care.
And the care management is so important that Andrea provides.
They're top
because,
notch.
they'll analyze the situation at a person's home and then decide what services are needed.
Exactly.
Yes.
And some people may not need an aid. They just need their life managed.
Yeah.
That's all. Reminding to take their medication, going to the doctors, getting their labs done. They just need management.
Yeah.
They don't need an aid there. They're not ready for that aid yet. But we do also life management as well.
But that's so important because, again, no two situations are alike, and that's going to be true with care. It's going to be true with your estate.
Right.
So these two things coming together and being able to kind of refer back and forth, it's really, it's why it's Limitless Health Horizons. That's why we call this show that, Andrea, because there's nothing that can't be helped through that umbrella somewhere. And
Absolutely.
It's leading.
It's one call does it all.
That's really what it is, too.
One call does it all. We're very informative, and we have the best providers
Yes.
in the area. And those are all local people who really love our community.
Yes, and they
who
do.
really dedicate themselves to our community
So
and our
important,
seniors. And
yes.
it's very important.
And the senior community, come on.
We have the most seniors of any county in the country.
Absolutely. I remember when I went to get in vitro fertilization 14 years ago. They said, this is a geriatric county and a geriatric state, so there's no coverage on this, and I had to pay cash. But the thing is, these seniors they were the trailblazers. They were the ones who built this area.
Yes.
Yes.
And they're the ones who came before us. They're our families. They're our community. And they deserve the best care. With so many scams out there, so many people take advantage. We want to make sure that they are getting the respect, the care, the love that they have earned. You want that if you are their family. You want that if you are the people who've earned it. And you want that if you're people like Andrea Albertini and James Chaffee, who want to see the best outcomes for the people they work with.
And Mike
because you
McCann.
come with your heart.
Yes, you too.
All right. I'll add myself
And I
to it.
told you need a vacation.
I do. I took a day off earlier this week. It was nice. A bunch of nature walks. I just disconnected, but I think I need a few more days.
I think so.
I'll figure it out one of these days. But the bottom line is, if you need that help, Horizon Care Services is the hub. They take care of all that in the home with the caregivers, help to put a plan together, whether it's life management, whether it's so much more than that. They can put you in touch with the people who can help you with things outside of their purview, much like James Chaffee, or refer you right to James. And you can also, of course, reach out to James Chaffee at 561-747-6000. And you can also get there and learn all about Horizon Care Services by calling 561-776-7757 or checking out horizoncareservices.com. Limitless Health Horizons. It flies by. I can't believe we're already out of time here.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. It's mind-blowing, right?
I'm mind-blowing.
And here we are.
Well, happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
That's it. Two of my very favorite people, James Chaffee, Andrea Albertini. Thank you both for what you do. What a great way for me to spend a Saturday morning. Heading over in a little while to the Friends of Jupiter Beach Food and Wine Festival, where I'm one of the food judges this year, so I'll be doing that. Then heading over to Abacoa for Turnstiles, tribute to Billy Joel tonight.
I don't know how there are enough hours in the day for you, Mike.
I have no idea.
I'll get some rest again one of these days. But hey, compared to, I'm
God
standing
bless
still
you.
compared to
Yes.
what you two are doing.
You're a blessing, though, to all of us.
So are you guys.
Yeah.
And
Mike.
you're wonderful people that are very special to me, and the work you do in the community is just amazing. James Chaffee, Andrea Albertini, Horizon Care Services, 561-776-7757. This has been Limitless Health Horizons on the South Florida Saturday morning. Have a great day.
You too.
Have a
Thank
great
you
day.
so much, James, for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mike, for all you do.
Horizon Care Services, because there's no place like home.